Today's daily pattern is going to be Chloe. I imagine that you could do them string together like this, you know, end to end or tip to tip, or you could overlap them as individual. They're sort of a flower-like shape. Looks like it's going to be pretty simple. First you put the 4 rice shapes intersecting together right here, and then you do 4 more on top of that, not quite as large and not in the middle, because you would tend to, it looks like you would tend to want to put them here, but you don't. You overlap them slightly so it's skewed just a little bit, and then you do 4 more, and then you just fill in various ways. If you fill in this one, it will look like that. If you just fill in part of it, it will look like that. If you fill in more and leave part of it blank, it would look like that. And then you can do with various shapes rather than rice shapes. You can use different diamonds or arrow type shapes. Those are the variations. Or you can just leave it like that without filling in at all. So I'm going to give this one a go. I've never done it before, like many and most of the patterns on here, and we'll see what I get. Not sure. I don't think I want to do it as a grid. I think I'm going to do them sort of free form. So let me start here. I'm gonna make my rice shape. That particular one got quite the hump to it. Normally wouldn't do that. Rice shapes actually should be more like that. But because I did it as one instead of coming up here and doing 1 and 2 like I normally would do, I ended up with that. I kind of end up with petal shapes instead of rice shapes when I do that. But that's okay. So what we want to do is then do this again, but just turn it just ever so slightly and not make it quite as long. So I'm going to do it starting like right here, like that. So it's just overlapping all on the same side, like this. That's the basic tangle right there. Pretty simple, fast, easy to do. And then we can embellish them however we feel like embellishing them. I think I'm going to put a few of them connected, but not a lot. I'm going to just kind of do a free form sort of a thing. Make sure I turn my tile. Something like that. And then we go 1 raised shape overlapping. Something like that. And I'm going to put 1 going this way. Now you could choose to draw a pencil grid and make these all line up like exactly. But I'm not going to do that. Okay, and 1 like this. It's a pretty quick and easy thing to do. I'm going to do 1 here, but I'm going to do it a different direction. I'm not going to have it lined up. Like you can see here, it's clearly starting a grid, but I don't want a grid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this one going this way. like that. So now it's a little cattywampus, a little out of sorts. I didn't overlap that very much, but that's okay. We can deal with that. And then I'm going to do that here. I'm going to make this one go the other way, cattywampus. Oops, I almost didn't make a right shape. Who knows what shape I was aiming for. But I stopped in time. There we go. Alright, and then once again, this sort of overlapping shape right there. Okay, and then I think I'm going to put one right here, not connected to any of them, and going kind of underneath. A nice big one. And why am I doing this? No idea. Just because. What I felt like. You know, make sure in your art you're doing what feels good for you. And if you're not feeling it sometimes, that's okay. Sometimes I don't feel it. The hardest thing, and I've talked about this just recently via questions and things, hardest thing is just letting go of the expectation of it being perfect and being correct and right all the time. That is the hardest thing to do, is to get rid of that thought process in your head and just let it be whatever it is. I feel like I need something in here, but like I said, I don't want them connected necessarily. So I'm going to do one right here that's completely goes behind that one. Like that. And then it'll have an overlap here and overlap there. And one here. Oop, I almost did not get an overlap. Oh well. But like I say, just giving up that control and that idea of perfection is so freeing if you can get past that. If you can get to that point where you just let it all go. Wow, that's so empowering. It really is. I'm going to do one more right here because there's a big old blank space right there. And I'm going to once again make one that kind of goes behind. Where is that going to come out? It's going to come out over here. It's going to point right about there, and it's going to come back right like that. So I don't see most of that one. And that's okay. That's what I want. And then overlap. That's going to be the hardest one, so I'm going to do that one last. I'm going to see what size overlap I kind of end up with here. And I'm getting really close to the edge there. I could have drawn a border, an area to keep my drawing contained, but I didn't. So that's okay. And this one I'm going to kind of do backwards because I can't see where it's going, so I have to kind of pick up my pen and just imagine where it's headed. Like that. And then you can just embellish however the different ways. I'm going to try the various ways that it shows on here. I'm going to, I think with the small one that has a nice big excuse me, nice big overlap. This one doesn't have a big overlap, so I'm going to use this and just color in just this part. Since they're kind of skinny. Just going to color in that part. And then maybe on this one, because it's got a nice, or this one, maybe, this one. Changed my mind, like twice already. I do that. Come in here and just fill in that part. Like that. Part of that big petal. Like that. Trying to get more black in my works. I noticed I kind of had stopped doing that, and so I'm trying to go back in and get a little bit more black into what I do. On this one, I think I'm going to do just the overlaps. The whole overlap, because each one of these, as I do them, it looks different. And if I was to do an entire drawing, doing them all the same, that would be fine too. But it would be nice to know by doing this kind of sampler as to what each type looks like. Now I know what this one looks like when the overlap petal is completely filled in. And that's when I know what it looks like when just the overlap is filled in, or when just part of it is filled in. They all look slightly different, and that's the joy of doing a kind of a sampler, is to figure out what things look best. Which they all look good. There's no right or wrong to this. But which one stirs you in your heart and your soul? Which one do you connect with? You might not connect with that one. You might connect with this one. You might decide that you don't want to do any of those and you want to do something else. And, all of those are fine. I think on this one, I'm going to, instead of fill in completely, I'm going to go ahead and do these little stripes. And that will look different than if I filled it in solid. See how that, your eye still kind of sees that as a solid, even though it's not. But because it is filled so densely, your eye does take that in as filled in. It takes it as a gray instead of a black. It's kind of what your brain does. It's amazing what our brains do, isn't it? I know I've said that before, but just fascinating. Stop and think and breathe and enjoy the repetition. The repetition is what gets you in that Zen place. Little lines going one by one. See, all of those are cool. All of them are great, and they all look different. And I am enjoying all of them. But I think I want more of this somewhere else because I've got so much dark going on. I want the stripe elsewhere. But I may do just like I did here and just do part of a flower and not all of it. And maybe instead of just stripes, I will do more of a crosshatch, like that. Looks like an ear of corn. So now that one reads a little bit darker than this one, but it still reads as a gray rather than a black because it's not completely filled in. So your brain reads it as gray. That's cool. I like that. I think I want to leave the rest. Now I feel like I need one more gray. Just the middle. Just the middle of this one. Yeah, that's what it needed. And I don't think I feel like I want to, and this is really strange for me, I don't feel like I want to shade this one. But I do feel like I want to give it some swirl, some movement. So I think I'm going to just out of the middle of these, just kind of give them a couple of fescue bits. Just to kind of give it some, fill some of those spaces that kind of look like they need filling. Come up and around. Big ones, little ones. Not doing this with any sort of thought or worry about doing them quote unquote right. I'm just going where my brain says it needs a little something. Just a little something. Nothing major, nothing fancy, just a little something. Sometimes it wants two, sometimes it just wants one, sometimes it wants more than two. Sometimes they go one way, sometimes they go another, sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long. It's just let your natural instincts take over as to when it's finished. Sometimes it will tell you it's done sooner than others. And sometimes it will say, you know, that's just like, whoa, way too busy. But I like that. I like this sort of explosion of what's happening here on the page. I really like that. Put it nice and close so you can see. Beautiful. Easy. This was a good one to do. It was fun. Cloie. Oh, I didn't write that very well, but that's all right. Whatever. Cloie. It's just to help me remember what it's called. That's a good one for today. See y'all later. Bye.